In 1902, the British Royal Geographical Society proposed the concept of the world island, which became the focus of attention of politicians all over the world. The world island is the Eurasian and African continents, which constitute an integral part of the world, with more than 80% of the world's population and resources. The British Isles, Australia, and America of the Ansa people are all on the edge, hanging overseas alone. Ansa people are constantly researching and perfecting the concept of the world island, and formulate their own strategies based on this. Simply put, it is to divide and conquer, ignite the flames of war, incite hatred, and create conflicts, so that the world island cannot form a whole. Especially after World War II, the Americans recognized the idea that the world is rotten, and we can be better. The world island should never be peaceful, and it will become broken pieces, and the United States will rule the world as the arbiter. In Southeast Asia, it provokes confrontation between South Asian countries and China, and provokes disputes in the South China Sea. Provoking confrontation between Muslims and Jews in the Middle East, supporting Israel to suppress Muslims. Provoke the confrontation between Russia and European countries in Europe. China, Russia, and China are the main foes of the United States, inciting the threat theory. Therefore, after Iran and Saudi Arabia reconciled under the mediation of China, the United States publicly shameless and expressed its great disappointment. All in all, island countries such as the United Kingdom and the United States, which are free from the main islands of Asia, Europe, and Africa, wish that all countries would fall into contradictions and isolation. The Ansa people wandered among the major forces to ensure the balance between the major forces. They jumped back and forth repeatedly in it to grab benefits. Because there are Asia, Europe, and Africa continents connected by land routes, once the countries within the continents are integrated, sea power countries such as the United Kingdom and the United States will be excluded from the world island of Asia, Europe, and Africa. After losing the largest market and source of resources, the fate of the island country can be imagined. The views of the Chinese nation and the Ansa people are completely opposite. The Ansa people think that they can only be good when the world is rotten. China believes that only when the world is better can China be better. The Ansa people want to divide the world, while China has been working to integrate the world. And 2,000 years ago, China used the Silk Road to link the entire world island together, allowing global civilizations to spread to each other, and the world is thriving. But since the age of discovery, the Ansa people have been spreading differences, hatred, and contradictions to the world for thousands of years, in an attempt to enslave all mankind. For quite a long time, because of China's Silk Road, Central Asia has become a key hub connecting the world and a meeting point of cultures. However, since the 17th century, it has declined due to colonialism and guns from Western countries. In 2022, the Russia-Ukraine war broke out, and the whole world saw that under the full sanctions of the US and Western blocs, Russia's economy did not decline but increased because it was backed by China. In fact, with China's strong manufacturing and capabilities, and its links with resource countries around the world, there will be no place for crapsticks like Britain and the United States. Today, we will reshape the entire global structure through industry and infrastructure. And here will also be the beginning of the collapse of hegemony. This is the Belt and Road Initiative, and its foundation, in addition to sea transportation, is the railway linking Europe and Asia. Today, the China-Europe Railway starts from China and reaches more than 180 cities in 26 countries in Asia and Europe, covering almost the entire Asia and Europe. The operation of the China-Europe Railway has driven the development of multiple industries in all node cities along the route, deepened understanding and exchanges between countries, promoted the construction of infrastructure along the route, and prospered the tourism service industry, which greatly promoted peace and common prosperity among countries. For China, the China-Europe Railway is one of our best business cards. Increased economic and trade exchanges, deepened exchanges, and deep economic integration with Central Asian and European countries have not only enhanced China's image and international status, but many rumors about China will also be self-defeating. But for the opening of the entire communication hub, the current China-Europe Railway has only completed a part, and it is not the optimal solution. Here, we have to talk about a country, which is Russia. Last time, we mentioned in the article that Vladivostok has become a transit port for China's domestic trade goods, and Heilongjiang and Jilin have access to the sea. In fact, they actually had access to the sea, because Jilin can go directly to the sea from the Tumen River. However, in 1950, the Soviet Union deliberately built the Russia-North Korea Friendship Bridge on the Tumen River, and specially designed the bridge height to be 10 meters. China can't get out of anything except small fishing boats, and China's sea outlets are deliberately blocked. In this way, Heilongjiang, Jilin, is rich in fertile fields and rich in resources, but lost its outlet to the sea, and the transportation costs soared 10 times. Then why did the Soviet Union do this? Let me put it bluntly. China has always held the view that China can be better when the world is better, but to have such a magnificent and confident country and nation, there is no semicolon in the world except the Chinese nation. All other countries have the same point of view. I just don't want to see the good of others, and I am willing to do things that hurt others and benefit myself. All countries except China are just like the villain in your unit. As long as you suffer a loss, even if he doesn't make a penny, he will wake up laughing in his dreams in the middle of the night. Let me tell you a typical case. During World War II, the British Empire suffered a crushing defeat. 140,000 British troops were driven around by 70,000 Japanese troops on bicycles. The Japanese easily won the war. Due to the vulnerability of the British Army, Myanmar soon fell into the hands of the Japanese Army, which completely cut off the Yunnan-Burma Railway, the main artery for China to receive external resources during the War of Resistance. China needs to build a new road, the Kangayan Highway, passing through Tibet and India, and finally reaching Chengdu in the rear. As a result, as China's ally against fascism and with highly consistent interests, Britain categorically rejected China's request. And he tried every means to obstruct it. On the one hand, he said that this road would harm the interests of India. On the other hand, he kept inciting the local government to refuse to cooperate, and instigated the Zhang forces at that time to resolutely sabotage the exploration work. In the follow-up, when the Chongqing government and the local government had many talks and reached an agreement, the British government quit directly. Anyway, they just wouldn't let you fix it. In 1943, Britain even openly supported local forces and interfered in China's internal affairs, but did not take direct military action due to the military pressure of the Chinese army between Kham and Tibet. On this matter, the Chongqing government has spent at least 2 years and wasted a lot of manpower and material resources. The United Kingdom just refused to let go. In the end, all kinds of rascals in China built the Stillwell Highway through Kunming. After 80 years, the southern Sichuan-Tibet line and the eastern Yunnan-Tibet line were repaired. Whenever I read this passage in history, the soaring anger cannot be contained. Why doesn't the UK allow road construction? I am afraid that after this road is completed, the central government will have closer ties with Tibet, and then China will not be more complete and unified. At this time, Britain was half buried by the Loas. Germany had bombed many heavy industrial cities in the UK into ruins, and Britain was almost left with one breath. At this time, Britain had one foot in the coffin, lost all its colonies in Southeast Asia, and was vulnerable to the Japanese offensive. Many troops surrendered in an organized way. If Japan wants to attack India, it will be easy. They are already dying, and they still want to suppress China and prevent China from reunifying. The country is about to be destroyed, and I am afraid that China will have a chance to get better. This is the basic philosophy of the Ansa people. Even if I earn a penny, even if I hurt others and benefit myself, I won't let you be well. If you are well, I will definitely not be good. In fact, all countries except China think so, but the Ansa people do it more thoroughly. Therefore, why do many small and broken countries like to provoke the Taiwan issue at all times, not to mention that they are coerced by the United States? In the deepest part of their hearts, there is a truth: they can't see others well. As long as they see other countries being unlucky, they will not benefit themselves, but their hearts are sweeter than eating honey. Having said that, why do we say that the current China-Europe Railway is not the optimal solution, and why do we mention Russia? The current China-Europe Railway must pass through Russia, and Russia must also adopt wide gauge, but China, Germany, and France all use international standard tracks, resulting in the need to change tracks twice in the middle of the China-Europe Railway, which is actually changing trains. The efficiency is extremely low, and the cost is extremely high. As for the most efficient one, we can see from the map that it should be the China-Jiji-Wuhan Railway. The total length of this railway is about 523 kilometers, including 213 kilometers in China, 260 kilometers in Kyrgyzstan, and 50 kilometers in Uzbekistan.
OK, bye
which will be an
bye. 到了
important
那
part
快
of the
点
new
，OK， 拜拜。
Eurasian Continental Bridge. It will connect northwest China to Tehran, Iran, and then pass through Istanbul to reach the Balkan Peninsula, Central Europe, and Western Europe. China's position in China will benefit countries along the route. It is the most efficient freight route from China to the Middle East and Europe. It can shorten the travel of nearly 1,000 kilometers and greatly reduce the transportation time. It will promote the deep integration of the international markets of Central Asia, South Asia, West Asia, and Europe, and truly realize the realization of China and Eurasian countries. Interconnection and mutual benefit under the framework of the Belt and Road Initiative. Moreover, it also has a great advantage. Not only can it reach the Middle East, but it can also enter Africa from the Middle East through Egypt, and finally truly connect the world islands of Europe, Asia, and Africa, making the world continent a whole. This will become the main line connecting Eurasia in the future. The China-Jaiwa Railway has been basically finalized since 1997, but why hasn't it been completed yet? It was not until 2022 that the president of Kyrgyzstan said a word: Russia will no longer object. Because Russia has always regarded the 5 countries in the Middle East as its own backyard, just as India regards Nepal and Bhutan as its own backyard. In order to take care of Russia's emotions and for the sake of the overall situation, China has not adopted a tough attitude. It was not until the Russo-Ukraine war broke out, the myth of Russia destroying 7 countries in 5 days fell, and the contradictions with the 5 Central Asian countries deepened. Russia had to lean more towards China for various reasons. Did this attitude change fundamentally? This time, the China Central Asia Summit finally confirmed the start of the construction of the China-Kyrgyzstan-Ukraine Railway. It can be said that China's grand plan to connect the world has cleared the last obstacle. Of course, the achievements of the Central Asia-China Summit are not only the China-Kyrgyzstan-Ukraine Railway. Central Asia is not only the transportation hub of the world island, but also the center and strategic core of the world island. It can be said that it has always been the focus of competition among major powers, and it has also been coveted by the United States for a long time. In March of this year, U.S. Secretary of State Blinken went to Central Asian countries in person and announced that he would provide tens of millions of dollars to these countries to promote economic transformation in the region. The back road can also stir up the northwest of China. To a certain extent, this is also an important reason why Russia finally let go of Central Asia, because the United States can only bring turmoil and war, while China brings peace and prosperity, so he is very clear about how to choose. The 5 Central Asian countries also knew exactly what they wanted. In the end, Blinken was busy with nothing in Central Asia, and the Central Asia Summit was successfully held in Xi'an. China and the 5 Central Asian countries have issued joint communiques, and will carry out in-depth cooperation with each country, as written in the communique. Promote cooperation in the fields of economy and trade, investment, finance, technology, tourism, transportation, and communication, hydropower, information technology, ecology, humanities, industry, agriculture, food security, digital, cloud technology, artificial intelligence and other fields under the framework of the Belt and Road Initiative, and develop green energy, improve energy efficiency. We only talk about Uzbekistan, an important hub on the Silk Road, with construction contract projects exceeding 10 billion yuan. China will give full play to its advantages in the entire industrial chain to promote Chinese standards, Chinese technology, and Chinese equipment to go global. Substation, building materials, and other fields. There is the largest single-scale wind power project in Central Asia, the largest single-scale cement plant in Central Asia, and the largest gas-fired combined cycle power station project in Central Asia. In the hinterland of a prosperous world island, the 5 stable and peaceful Central Asian countries will emerge soon, and will become the central hub for China to go global more quickly. Why do we say that China can be better when the world is better, and what Central Asia means to China? Let's talk about the most direct. In recent years, Xinjiang's foreign trade exports have been soaring. In the first quarter of this year, Xinjiang's total import and export value reached 68 billion yuan, an increase of 80.3% year-on-year, and the growth rate ranked first in the country. Russia will eventually correct its own position, and with the lock of the pattern of Central Asia, a world led by China, kingly rather than domineering, and in line with the consciousness of a community with a shared future for mankind is not far away. Finally, I would like to say that with the recent opening of the Central Asia Summit in Vladivostok, the goose feathers who were once planted by the National Hate Party are beaming. Some people even praised Zelensky. but the former black fans are downcast. Because there has never been a so-called goose feather, what everyone thinks is. We will support whoever is beneficial to the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. We will oppose anyone who wants to hinder the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. As for Ukrainian fans, from the first day of the Russo-Ukrainian War, countless people suddenly emerged in China, who are more proficient in international law than anyone else, love the UN Charter more than anyone else, proper citizens of the world, and openly support the containment we, NATO, owe the blood debt of the Chinese people. Still the same sentence, wherever there is any anti-war, they are all anti-thieves. Wherever there are black fans, they all hate the Nationalist Party. China has a strong self-confidence and open mind, and believes that China can only be better when the world is better. And other countries are small-bellied, thinking that it doesn't matter whether I am good or not, the key is that no one else can be good. The country-hating party is the most despicable. They think that everyone can be good, but China cannot be good. Unfortunately, in China, debut is the pinnacle. In the 5,000 years of human history, most of the time has been the king. Although there are occasional disadvantages, it is doomed that no one can stop his pace. On May 22nd, a detachment of the Free Russian Legion crossed the border from Ukraine into Russia at a border checkpoint near Belgorod. The Free Russian Legion claimed that they had received requests for help from residents of the Belgorod region, saying that they could no longer bear the fear of being attacked every day, and called on the Free Russian Legion to enter and conduct peacekeeping operations. This statement is very Russian. Sure enough, magic must be used to defeat magic. On May 22nd, a detachment of the Russian Legion crossed from Ukraine into Russia at a... So what the hell is going on with this Freedom Legion? Does it belong to Ukraine, or does it belong to the goose? To find out the ins and outs, we have to start from the beginning of the war. Within a week after the Russian-Ukrainian conflict officially broke out, Kiev, the Ukrainian capital, was strongly attacked by the Russian army, and the Ukrainian capital was on the verge of falling. At this time, Zelensky came out and issued an initiative to the world, calling on personnel with military training and certain combat experience to come to Ukraine voluntarily to form a foreign legion to help Ukraine resist the invasion of peace. After the launch of the initiative, it not only attracted tens of thousands of retired soldiers from more than 50 countries in the world, but the most surprising thing is that there were also volunteers with Big Goose passports and some Big Goose anti-war people living abroad. At first, the Goose volunteers formed a team of 200 people, and later it reached several thousand people. This is the prototype of the Russian Freedom Corps. It is said that there are more than 100,000 supporters in the Goose country. For more than a year, there have been many attacks in the territory of Big Goose, and some fuel warehouses, pipeline facilities, airports, military storage points, etc. have been attacked and destroyed in succession. Although Goose claimed that it was caused by the staff throwing cigarette butts, it should actually have something to do with the Goose Freedom Corps. After the Goose Free Corps and the volunteer army entered the territory of Goose, they captured Graverin, in the Belgorod region and captured the Jingcha headquarters in Graverin. The Goose Freedom Corps attacked in multiple ways, dispatched helicopters, artillery, and armored vehicles, and took down several Belgorod border settlements. At the same time, they distributed leaflets and shouted, and once defeated the Goose border guards. At the same time, they rushed into the border office and killed several people. Border soldiers. Most embarrassingly, the flag of the Free Goose Rus appeared over Moscow. They themselves did not expect that the second army in the world would be so unbeaten. They had already taken an area equivalent to Bachmut. Russian local residents filmed the armored troops of the Russian Free Corps last night when they were resting. The command vehicle and other vehicles can be seen in the screen in order. Free Corps fighters hoisted the new regiment flag, and they set up multiple checkpoints, only checking military vehicles. They did not stop the people of Belgorod who fled in a hurry. At this time, the convoy leaving the city had formed a long queue. Everyone knows that the Big Goose troops are bound to attack the lost territory, and they will achieve their goals without any scruples and unscrupulous means, so that the local residents will become cannon fodder if they don't leave. At present, the Freedom Corps is still fighting and has issued a simple battle report. Goose Media claims to have driven the Freedom Corps back to Ukraine, but it is reported on the internet that it is still moving forward, to be confirmed. We haven't summed up today's results with RDK, Volunteer Army. But we can say that today the Legion members made a big fuss in Grandpa's tribe in the bunker. We demilitarized a motorized rifle company of the Goose Armed Forces, destroying several units of their armored vehicles. We will not talk like the Kremlin propagandists, blaming us for imaginary losses, so soon you will see our video for confirmation. In addition, the Goose Ministry of Defense confirmed that a Mi-8 helicopter of the Goose Special Forces crashed in the border area, but it was not the Ukrainians. Similarly, the Freedom Corps made a big disturbance in the territory of the Goose, and the Ministry of National Defense of the Goose refused to admit that it was the Black Army's attack on the territory of the Goose. Let the Ukrainian army occupy several towns and then encircle and suppress them. Even Chuck, who is capable of turning things upside down, is not as good as himself. It turns out that Big Peace also plays his chess. In fact, if it is admitted that this is an attack launched by Ukraine on the mainland, Grandpa Bunker will lose face. As I said before, if you attack the Big Goose land, you will throw gas tanks. The sneaky damage before is not counted. A few shells are not counted, and a few planes are destroyed. Then this face is really unacceptable. However, since the dagger was intercepted, the gas tank was not easy to throw away. At present, graffiti with the logo of the Freedom Legion has appeared in many places in Goose G. A single spark may turn into a prairie fire. For Goose, this will be more terrifying than the Black Army's counterattack. Because the Ukrainian counteroffensive ended with high compensation at best. Once the Freedom Legion grows stronger, it will change hands. And this is what Grandpa Bunker is most afraid of. In another big piece of news, the NATO Parliamentary Assembly committed European countries to announcing at the Vilnius summit in July that Ukraine would become a member of the alliance. According to the head of the Ukrainian delegation Yegor Chernak, the corresponding resolution was adopted unanimously. If Ukraine really joins NATO in July, then the nature of this war will completely change, and it will become a war between Big Goose and NATO. This is something Grandpa Bunker absolutely does not want to see. It was previously rumored that NATO would end in July, but it seems not just speculation.